attached to exact numbers and whether we're the most obese or not the most obese. Those kinds of things are irrelevant. What we need to understand is that compared to what used to be, we are more obese than we've ever been, and we are seeing higher rates of diabetes, cardiovascular disease, cancers, dementia, all of these things associated to the food we consume, or the food-like products we consume. There is a trend, and what we've got to think about is that if we compare to the first world, for example, in the United States and Europe, which are first world countries where these non-communicable diseases were first identified, can we as a developing country afford to deal with these kinds of disease profiles on the backdrop of things like HIV, TB and communicable diseases? And you remember, Africa is a very interesting continent. We have socio-political turmoil, there's economic issues, there's still poverty and inequality. We're addressing so many grassroots issues, and now you're getting these epidemics that used to primarily impact the first world emerging in sub-Saharan Africa and rest of Africa as well. So it is a problem, and at the clinic level, the primary healthcare level, out in the rural areas of South Africa to the cities of South Africa, we're seeing it across the boards. Our clinics are swamped, our resources are constrained, and we are having difficulty coping with it. So there is a problem. The problem is driven by the consumption of sugar, sugar-sweetened beverages, and junk food in general. So what is food? Food is information we put into the body, right? Food comes from the earth, we've evolved with it, and if we eat food from the earth, we're fine. But what we've gone to do is put food-like products into our bodies which satisfy taste. And if you take the average soft drink, it has about 10 teaspoons of sugar. It has no other nutrients and it has chemicals. When you put this into your mouth, it tastes great, it dumps into your stomach, and all of this liquid energy or sugar in its most basic form immediately gets absorbed into your bloodstream. And that sugar needs to be processed. It's a big load. Now normally if you eat something like a carrot, you've got to chew it, there's fiber, it's got to be digested. There is some form of carbohydrate in the carrot and sugar. It will be absorbed into the bloodstream very slowly and your body can cope. It will use some of it for work, the rest of it will get stored appropriately for future use. But when you put a big load in, you've got to suddenly distribute this very rapidly. So you release a large amount of insulin, you move a lot of the glucose out of your bloodstream, and usually you see people after a soft drink, 1 hour later they're having an energy dip. So after the initial high there's a dip. All this glucose has to go somewhere, and if you're not using it through activity, it's going to store around the waist as fat. This is what we call visceral or organ fat. And organ fat is bad for us. It causes inflammation, it changes your hormone profile, it plays around with what we call adipokines, which are useful hormones, and changes the pattern that is in a way that is bad for us. So you start seeing cholesterol issues, high blood pressure, higher risk of cancer, and even dementia and other diseases that are on the increase because of this inflammation that's going on because of the bad fat. So ultimately we're stressing our body to cope with this glucose load. And the second thing that happens, because it's liquid energy, you don't feel satisfied, so you go and eat more again. You don't feel satiated. So ultimately we're just consuming and consuming without using, and this is causing a hormonal problem in the body, a weight problem, which leads to all the fallout ultimately, which will ultimately lead then to heart attack or stroke many years later.